What's up, you beautiful nerds? This is Chesh here, and thought we could go over a quick deck tech for my legendary deck. This is Kethis, the Hidden Hand. So this is one white, one black, and one green for a legendary creature, Elf Advisor. Legendary spells that you cast cost one less to cast. Legendary spells. Very important, very, very important that it's not just creatures. You can exile 2 legendary cards from your graveyard, and then until the end of turn, each legendary card in your graveyard gains. You may play this card from your graveyard. Now, we have to talk about space. I need some space. I mean, zones. So, the thing to remember is that when a thing leaves a zone, any ability that was on there while it was in that zone that's been placed on there by something else is no longer there. So if you sacrifice a legendary enchantment and it goes to your discard pile, and then you use Kethis' ability, when that enchantment goes back to play, it loses the Kethis ability. So once it goes back to the graveyard in the same turn, or discard pile, whatever you want to call it, it will lose that text. It will no longer have the text where you can play it. You cannot loop this card. So, we want to talk about some really cool, weird tricks that we can do with Kethis. Sorry, not sorry. We're playing all 3 of the banding lands. Well, there's 5 of them really, but we're playing one for each of our colours. So this particular one, the Unholy Citadel, it's been well loved as you can see. All of your black legends bands with other legends. Yes, that means that there is banding in this deck now. Banding is a very interesting rule. It's basically like you get to choose how all the damage happens in combat when somebody's blocking your banding stuff. It's convoluted. I'm not going to go into it here. You can look it up. I'm sure I've probably talked about it before, but I don't think we need to go over it. Banding is a weird ability. You're probably asking me what else we're going to be doing with this deck. Well, this is not a lands deck by any stretch of the imagination, but we are using Life of the Loam simply to dredge. So this is 1 green and 1 colours for a sorcery. Return up to 3 target land cards from your graveyard to your hand. Dredge 3. If you would draw a card instead, you may put exactly 3 cards from the top of your library into your graveyard. If you do, return this card to your graveyard from your graveyard to your hand. Otherwise, draw a card. So we're going to use this to basically dredge our deck as fast as we can to get as many legendary cards as we can. There is a couple of ways that we can really do this. We are running, of course, a copy of Entomb. Shwink. So Entomb reads 1 black for an instant. Search your library for a card and put that card into your graveyard, then shuffle your library. We are playing some other tutors and stuff as well that can help us out. So there is ways that we can get it in there if we need to. We are playing legendary graveyard stuff, so of course we're playing good old Buried Alive. This actually is the Buried Alive from my original team's Reanimator deck that I used to play with David Mines and one of our other team members. So this is 2 colours and 1 black for a sorcery. Search your library for up to 3 creature cards, put them into your graveyard, and then shuffle your library afterwards. Really, really cool, because it basically means go and tutor some creatures that you want to play. Some ways to draw cards. There are a couple of ways, but the best ways to draw cards in this deck are Guardian Project. So this is 3 colours and 1 green for an enchantment. Whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, yeah. If it doesn't have the same name as another creature you control or a creature card in your graveyard, draw a card. Pretty simple, pretty good. We also have Greater Good, which is 2 colours and 2 green. Sacrifice a creature, draw cards equal to the sacrificed creature's power, and then discard 3 cards. This is super cool in the late game because you can just keep drawing and discarding cards to fill up your discard pile. We're playing like 49 legendary cards, and I'm not going to go through them all one by one. We're just going to flash some names and talk about some really important cards. One not so important, but I'll point it out anyway because this is a sub-theme of the deck, is Day of Destiny. This is 3 colors and 1 white for a legendary enchantment. Legendary creatures you control have +2/+2. There's a whole heap of stuff in this deck that gives all of your creatures +1/+1, +2/+2, etc. So that's pretty cool. We've got Yawgmoth's Vile Offering because, of course, why wouldn't we be playing the Dominaria legendary cards? This is 4 colors and 1 black. You can only cast this if you control a legendary creature or planeswalker. Really not going to be much of a problem in this deck. Put up to 1 target creature or planeswalker card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. Destroy up to 1 target creature or planeswalker and then exile it. We are playing Rift Sweeper so we can get it back. I mean, this is just like a one-shot removal, so it's fine, I guess. Kamal's Druidic Vow is pretty cool. This is X and 2 green for a legendary sorcery. Look at the top X cards of your library. You may put any number of land and or legendary permanent cards with a converted mana cost of X or less from among them onto the battlefield. Put the rest into your graveyard. Yeah, super mill yourself. Urza's Ruinous Blast, of course. Exile all non-land permanents that aren't legendary as a sorcery for 4 colors and 1 white. We've got Primeval's Glorious Rebirth for 5 colors, a white and a black. Return all legendary permanent cards from your graveyard to the battlefield. Doesn't exile, by the way. Journey to Eternity, 1 colors, 1 black, and 1 green for a legendary enchantment aura. Enchant creature you control. When enchanted creature dies, return to the battlefield under your control, and then return Journey transformed under your control. Transformed into Adzai, Cave of Eternity. I'm really bad with these names, but Adzai, Cave of Eternity, right? Adzai, yeah. Add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool, which is pretty cool. For a black and a green and 3 colors, you can tap it and return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. So again, another really cool legendary card. We're playing a couple of planeswalkers in here. Of course, Garruk Wildspeaker just helps us untap some lands and play some beasts. It doesn't really matter too much. We're playing Vivian Reed because it helps us destroy target artifact, enchantment, or creature with flying. In most metas, you are going to have some flyers you want to kill, and Vivian Reed's a really good way to do it. We're playing the Weatherlight, which is 4 colors for a legendary artifact vehicle. It's a 4/5 with crew 3. So tap a creature with power 3 or more to crew the Weatherlight, so the Weatherlight becomes a creature. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may reveal a historic card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Shalai, Voice of Plenty, just helps us protect everything. 3 colors, 1 white for an Angel Legendary. Flying Planeswalkers, Planeswalkers you control and other creatures you control have hexproof. Don't worry about the +1/+1 counters, that is part of the sub-theme, I guess, but it doesn't really matter. Gonti is awesome because you want to keep replaying Gonti every chance you get. This is 2 colors and 2 black for an Aetherborn Rogue Legendary with Death Touch. When Gonti enters the battlefield, look at the top 4 cards of target opponent's library, exile 1 face-down card, and then put the rest on the bottom of that player's library in a random order for as long as that card remains exiled, even if Gonti dies. You can look at it and cast it as though it was... Well, I mean, you can look at it and cast it, and you can spend any mana as though it was mana of any type to cast it. So, pretty great. Shielded Whispering one is something we should probably talk about. This is 2 black and 5 colors for a Swamp Walk, Legendary Praetor. This is a 6/6, and at the beginning of your upkeep, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. At the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, that player sacrifices a creature. Solid removal. We do have a very slight elf sub-theme under here, so we do have Narwin so that we can basically just a mana dog. Aeoli, Eternal Pilgrim, pretty cool. We don't need to go into that. Whisper, Blood Liturgist. This is great because we can actually sacrifice 2 creatures to return target creature from the graveyard to the battlefield. So this can be really good to get other creatures back should you require it if you don't have enough mana to use Kethis and recast them. Taser has protection from creatures and vigilance, so this gets through the damage most of the time, which is great. The secondary text doesn't really matter, but it's a great way to deter people from actually attacking you and make them either deal with Taser or just basically attack each other. Other legendary creatures you control get +2/+2 thanks to Avrod the Cursed. This is another thing we were talking about with the +1/+1 +2/+2 sub-theme. Same with Trostani Discordant for 3 colors, a green and a white. Legendary creature Dryad. Other creatures you control get +1/+1. You get 2 1/1 white soldier creature tokens with lifelink, and at the beginning of your end step, each player gains control of all creatures they own. So that's great if somebody is thinking about trying to steal your field. Yeheni, Undying Partisan, and these will all be down in the link below. Erebos, God of the Dead. Rishka, Pima Renegade, again the +1/+1 counter sub-theme, or +1/+1 sub-theme. Same with Ravos. Ravos, of course, also allows you, at the beginning of your upkeep, you can return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. We have the Harvester Teneb, which is just basically Reanimation Dragon. Bontu the Glorified, because we can sacrifice another creature to scry 1 and each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. So if you end up with enough mana, you can just basically repeat this on your turn a whole bunch and kind of start draining out your opponents if they're low enough. We've got Drana, Liberator of Malakir. We've got Kumbal, Console of Allocation, which is one of the best legendary creatures I've seen in a long time. This is 1 colorless, 1 white, and 1 black. Whenever an opponent casts a non-creature spell, that player loses 2 life, and you gain 2 life. Combo decks, watch out, because Kumbal is coming to ruin your day. Hope of Gurupur, of course. We've got Miri to help stave off attacks and choose correct blocks, basically. We've got Storev. I guess it's fine. I mean, you've got ways to sacrifice stuff. Storev is fine. Same with Marin. Marin's a bit meh, it doesn't really matter, but whenever a creature you control dies, you get an experience counter, which is great. At the beginning of your end step, choose target creature card in your graveyard. If that card's converted mana cost is less than or equal to the number of experience counters you have, return it to the battlefield, otherwise put it in your hand. Avacyn, Angel of Hope, big fat angel, just makes all your stuff indestructible and is indestructible. Gorkor also helps you reduce the cost of a lot of these big expensive legendary creatures. We have Tesha, which there is a loop with Tesha, but not really in this deck because, again, we like to pare down our decks a little bit so they're not too overpowered. Helm of the Host, of course, works banger with legendaries. We have Mox Amber, Planar Bridge, the Praetor Flagship just to help deal with flyers. We've got a Whip of Erebos because we want to give our creatures lifelink for a particular reason. Let's put this down here. Hero's Podium's an interesting legendary artifact for 5, colorless. Each legendary creature you control gains +1/+1 for each other legendary creature you control. Remember that +1/+1 sub-theme? Yeah, it's pretty strong. X is tap and look at the top X cards of your library. You may reveal a legendary creature from among them, put it into your hand, put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So I guess it sort of helps you to tutor-ish in a weird way. It's fine. Flagstones don't really matter, to be honest. We just wanted more legendary lands because once you get them into your graveyard, you can do stupid stuff like get rid of them with Kethis, because you don't need them. Same with Pendelhaven, doesn't really do much in this deck. It's just there because it's legendary. We've got Urborg, Tomb of Yawgmoth. We've got a Wrath's Edge. I know, right? Horrible old land. Only produces colorless, it's a rare. Foreign sacrifice a land. Wrath's Edge deals 1 damage to target creature or player. Yep. God's Eye Gate to the Rakai. When it's put into a graveyard from play, put a +1/+1. Put a 1/1 color spirit creature token into play. I wonder how we're going to anyway. We've got Yuntidike, the Cloud Keeper. This is fine. I mean, we're just going to tap it and pay 2 life to add 2 colors to our mana pool that we can only play legendary spells with. So it's just like pseudo ramp, but it's not really great. I don't suggest it. It's just flexible. You can take it out. Gaia Reach Sanitarium, just so that we can discard stuff. And then we get into some of the just light combo in the deck. So whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you gain life equal to that creature's toughness. Sanguine Bond. Whenever you gain life, target opponent loses that much life. Yeah, so if you can just like basically drain with Whip and with Shadiki, you can of course Sanguine Bond people out, which is great. We also have Jared, of course. So Jared is one colorless, one green, and one black. Sacrifice another creature. Each opponent loses life equal to the sacrificed creature's power. There's ways to just kind of like generate enough mana to do this a couple of times per turn. And considering how big your stuff is going to be anyway, you're probably going to be able to just kill the board with Jared once Jared comes down in the late game. Speaking of exiling stuff, we have a Rift Sweeper in here. I know you probably haven't seen one of these in a very long time. This is one colorless and one green for an Elf Shaman, a 2/2. When the Sweeper enters the battlefield, choose target face-up exiled card. Its owner shuffle that card into his or her or their library. So pretty cool, really. We of course have a Dread Return just so that we can sacrifice some creatures and return target creature from your graveyard to the battlefield. We have Animate Dead for much the same reason, just to animate stuff. And we have late game Living Death, so we can try and just kill somebody in one turn if we can. Each player exiles all creature cards from their graveyard, then sacrifices all creatures they control, then puts all cards that were exiled this way onto the battlefield under their control. 3 colors and 2 black, pretty cool. Some removal, we do have a Planar Cleansing to destroy all non-land permanents. Anguish Unmaking is one of the best removal cards ever made in Magic, in my honest opinion. The same with Path to Exile and Swords to Plowshares. Very cheap removal, very good. Exiling stuff is sometimes the bestest. We have Rout because we can technically play it with Flash if we spend the extra 2, so that's very expensive. It's 7 mana to Flash, but, you know, sometimes you just want to do it on the end of an opponent's turn. Phyrexian Rebirth, of course, destroy all creatures, then create an XS colors horror artifact creature token where X is the number of creatures destroyed this way. Things you will notice that are missing from this deck right now. We are missing a self-mill theme. Now, I had considered doing that, but I wanted this to be a lot more of a fun deck rather than a hardcore, let's win every game type of deck. The way that I like to play Commander is I like everyone at the table to have a chance. I like to see cool things going off from cool people's decks. Do I love to win? Absolutely. Who doesn't? Do I need to win every single game? No, that's not my philosophy. I just want to have fun, and I want my group to have fun. I don't want to do something gross and disgusting when I know how that feels being played against me. So I would rather play a fun deck that does a lot of really cool things than a hardcore deck that's just going to lock everyone out of the game or create an infinite combo or something like that. Anyway, this has been Chesh. This has been Kethis, the Hidden Hand. Do you have a build for this deck? What other decks do you want me to build? Perhaps a Weatherlight themed deck is something I've been thinking about. I have been working on a Yarok deck, so maybe you'll see that next week. But leave your comments down below. Let me know how you've been. I know it's been like 2 weeks because of my Commander thing, my preview card. And yeah, work's just been like full on and hardcore, and it takes up a lot of my time, and it means that I don't have enough time to really do this as much as I would like. But I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I will chat to you all soon, you beautiful bastards.